Hi, it's Barry Neal again here, and in this video I want to cover one of the best techniques that you can use when you're working with someone who is incongruent, who's got some sort of conflict going on. And this is particularly true with people who are struggling with addictions. In virtually all cases, when you're working with someone with addictions, there is some form of incongruence going on. And typically, there are two types of incongruity. There's what's called a simultaneous incongruity, and then there's something called sequential incongruity. Now, simultaneous incongruity is where the person is kind of in two minds at the same time. Kind of like, you know what, I really need to save up, but I want to buy that top this weekend. Or, I really want to do this. I really want to lose weight, but I fancy a piece of cake. Both things are happening at the same time. So the conflict is going on at that same time. It can often happen with people in relationships who really know that the relationship's kind of over, but they don't do anything about it, and they're running all these things through their head. Kind of like, I know I should get out of this relationship, but I just don't want to do that right now, or whatever. That's a sort of simultaneous conflict. This type of conflict that we're talking about now, that works with addictions, is more what's called sequential conflict, sequential incongruity. Because if you're working with someone with addictions, particularly drugs or drinking, then typically the person that makes the appointment and the person who comes in for the session is the sober part of them. They really want to change. But the other part of them often isn't there in the room with you at the time. Now, I'm not talking as severe as a multiple personality, but it's like the parts conflict is kind of really separated, because the person who comes in, they really want to stop, but for whatever reason, they haven't. And typically what happens is they go into whatever context where the problem happens, like maybe they walk into a pub, or they walk in with their friends who are sitting around smoking dope or whatever, and suddenly, bang, this other part comes back into play. And at that point, the sober part disappears and the addicted part is there. This process works so well with that type of problem. And it's an NLP technique called the Visual Squash. And that sounds kind of weird, but it's a fantastic, powerful technique that works with this type of conflict. Now, what you do is you have the person, you have to put them in the context where the problem occurs. Because if you don't, if you've just got you're working with the person and you've got the sober part there, you're still just working with the sober part. So you have to mentally put them in the context where the problem arises. So like a lot of the techniques that I talk about, you really must get a specific context where the problem behavior triggers off. So let's say, for example, they're walking down the street, they feel okay, they're not thinking about having a drink or whatever, but then they look over and they see their favourite pub, and bang, they think, you know what, I'll just have one. And that's where they go. So you want to get them in the context where the problem occurs. So you have them think about that and you go, okay, so obviously you're here because on one hand you want to stop drinking, or you want to stop whatever it is, and yet on the other hand you're still doing it. So we must think of that there is part of you that wants to do X and part of you that doesn't. And so you've kind of pacing that. And then you say, okay, so the part of you that's been causing you to X, whatever the problem is, so which hand would that like to come out on? If that part were to come out on one of your hands, which hand would seem most normal for it to come out? Now, don't say which hand would seem the most right, because you're going to suggest that. So just say which hand would that most like to come out on. And let's say, for example, they say, well, I'd like it to come out on this hand. And you go, great, okay. So what you do is you lift their hand up, and you as the therapist, providing you're doing this one-on-one, obviously, just gently hold the arm. And what you're doing there is you're using a very light touch, kind of touching it but not touching it. And what you're doing there is actually you're producing arm catalepsy. So the arm is now kind of staying there by itself. And you say to the person, okay, I want you to look at that part, the part of you that wants to drink, or the part of you that's doing the behavior. That part, what does it look like? So now you want to get a visual representation of what the part looks like. Now, many times it might look like a blob or a colour, a ball or a square or something like that. But quite often it might look like a person that they know, particularly if this is a learned behaviour of their father or their uncle or somebody like that, some significant other. So have them imagine what that part looks like. And you go, great, okay. So now you've got the part there and you've got it identified. And have them feel it in the hand as if you're heavy or light. So now you've got it there. And now what you want to do is you want to find out the positive intention. Now, here's the key when doing any type of conflict work. Whatever the behavior is, doesn't matter what the behavior is, how destructive it seems to be, at some level in the mind, there is a positive intention. Now, some people will go, okay, is that always true? I don't care. If you use this process, yes, it will, 99.999% of the time, there will always be a positive intention. And even if there isn't, you will be able to work around that and trigger a positive intention and install one, because what you want there is a positive intention. And behind every behavior is a positive intention. If we go into the process with that mindset, we will always find the positive intention. If you're one of these skeptical people who like to mismatch everything, you're the one who's going to end up with problems. So don't do that. Have in your mind, right, behind every behavior, whether the behavior is positive or negative, there is always a positive intention. Now, as a disclaimer, that's not a positive intention for anybody else other than the client. At some level, the part of the mind that's doing it has a positive intention. Whatever it is, it may be really, really destructive to the person and to everybody else, but at some level, to the part of the person who's doing it, there's a positive intention. So we need to find that out. So we have them look at the part and go, okay, so this part of you that's been causing you to drink, what's its intention for doing that? And then you just stop and let them think about it. So there they think about what's the intention, and they go, well, I don't know, so I can have some fun. You know, I need to let off some steam. Okay, that sounds fine. So that part of you that is causing you to drink, it just really wants you to have some fun. Yeah, okay, great. What's important to you about that? What's important to that part about that? Well, I work really hard and it's time for me to blow off some steam. Okay, you work really hard, time to blow off some steam, okay. What's its intention for wanting you to do that? What's even more important? And they go, well, you know, if I keep pushing myself really hard and don't relax, then I could end up having a heart attack or something. So I need to have some method of letting off steam. Okay, yeah, okay. So if you let off steam, what's important about that? Well, then I'll be able to relax. Ah, okay. Now here's the thing. What you'll find behind many, many addictions is that all the substances they use are in an attempt to get the person to relax. That's a lot of what's going on. And this, you know, the alcohol, the drugs, whatever it is probably their primary way of helping them relax. The people who've got trauma in their lives, who are constantly running traumatic events in their head all the time and from the past, the drug is really a method of them trying to relax, of trying to quieten down their mind. So, okay, so this part of you wants you to relax. Okay, so what's important about for you to relax? Well, then I just get some peace. Okay, so you get some peace, great, okay. What's important about peace? If you had peace, what would that do for you? And they go, well, I guess I'd just be calm. Okay, great, okay, so you just be calm, that's great, yeah, okay. What's even more important than that? If you were calm, what will you be? And they go, I guess I'd be happy. Okay, now you've got the positive intention. You're right up there. You've used language to chunk up. And the key to chunking up is to ask questions of like, what's important? Or what will that do for you? Or if you had that, what will that do for you? So just if you had that, then what will that do for you? So that linguistically chunks up. It goes up to a higher level of abstraction. So now we've got the person over here. We've got the surface behavior of drinking or taking drugs or whatever. We've now used language to chunk up to the real positive intention, which is to be happy. So we then go, okay, now we then say, okay, now there's a part of you that's obviously in direct conflict with this drinking. You know, it's probably the part that's brought you here today. Would that part like to come out on the other hand? And again, we touch them there and hold them there and get arm catalepsy. So now they've got two hands like this, right? And quite often the further away that you have them, the better at this stage. So you then go, okay, so this part of you that wants you to stop drinking, the part of you wants you to be sober, the part of you that wants you to take back control of your life, what does that part look like? And again, get a visual representation of it. Could be a blob, could be their parents, could be anything. Just get a visual representation on there. Okay, so the part of you that wants you to be sober, what does that part want for you? Well, it wants me to be healthy. You know, I mean, the part over there that's doing all the drinking, you know, it's doing a lot of damage to my liver and whatever. You know, I just need, you know, I'm 40 years old. I need to stop this now. I need to get my act together. I need to be healthy. Okay, great. So you want to be healthy. So this part wants you to be healthy. Yes, great. Okay. What's more important than being healthy? You know, what does it want through being healthy? Well, you know, I want to live a long life. You know, I want to enjoy myself. I want to enjoy my life. You know, I'm getting drunk all this time and I'm missing so much out of, I can't remember half of the things I'm doing. Okay. So what's important about that? Well, you know, I just really want to be happy. You know, I'm just so conflicted all the time. I just really want to be happy. And what you'll find out is that if you chunk up enough using the same questions, what's important about it, what will that do for you, you'll find that the positive intention of the part that wants to change and the positive intention behind the part that's doing the behavior are both the same thing. So now we've got the part over here, and we've identified the positive intention as being happy, and the part over here, the positive intention is being happy. So now we go, oh, right, okay. Do you realize that both of these parts actually want the same thing, but they're kind of going around it in different ways, and that's what's causing you problem? And they go, well, yeah, I didn't realize that. Okay, great, okay. Now, as this part looks over to that part over there, does it see any sort of resources or strengths that part has that it would quite like to have? And this part might go, well, you know, that part does like to have fun, you know, and sometimes when I'm working a lot, I don't get really time to have fun and do things. Oh, great, okay, so that part, you can see that it likes to have fun. Great, okay. This part over here, does it see any sort of strengths or resources that it would like to have? And it might go, well, yeah, you know I need to be healthy, and this part obviously is concerned with my health. Great, okay. So you've got some other things going on there. So now you say, and you as the therapist, you're sitting opposite your client who's sitting there with their hands like this. You are now mirroring them. So you've got your hands like that as well, behind, you know, in front of theirs. And you go, great. So now that these parts both realize that they have the same highest intention and they've got some strengths that either one would like, how could they best begin to come together so that the conflict would end and these parts could begin to work together to help you get what you really want, which is to be happy? Because after all, that's really what you want. And so as you're giving these suggestions, you are now pantomiming, moving your hands together. Now, if you've got rapport, and they will begin to start following what you're doing, and their hands are going to begin to start moving together. Now, I know that sounds a little bit weird, and the first time I heard about this technique, I thought, that ain't going to work. That's too weird. We haven't induced hypnosis or anything like that. We're just sitting there having a chat. No, it really does work, and it's bizarre. You watch the movement of the hands, and the hands slowly begin to come together, and the client is going to go, wow, that's kind of weird. My hands are moving together, but I'm not moving them. and the hands often will begin to shake. And if you see them shaking, you can suggest, and as those hands begin to shake, this is a real big conflict that's about to end, and both of these parts are going to begin to work together towards the highest need of helping you to be happy and getting on with your life, and blah, 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 give you all the suggestions. And then as they begin to come together, suggest that the moment they come together, they begin to feel a burst of energy as that conflict finally comes to an end, and they can find new ways to be happy that will surprise and delight them. And then have them imagine these two parts beginning to come together, and have them have a visual representation of what that would look like as these two parts begin to merge together, so that as the hands touches, the parts begin to merge together. And then you as a therapist, they're sitting there like this, you slowly push their hands back into their chest and suggest, right, bring that part back inside of you, this new super part back inside of you, and close your eyes and go all the way down. Then you do your best hypnotic stuff and suggest the integration of this part, and that because these two parts are now integrated, they're going to find it so much easier to get what they want and do what they want. That old behavior that they used to do will seem nowhere near important, have less and less important over time. They'll be feeling better and better, that you'll find new ways to feel happy, and you'll surprise and delight yourself, and all this sort of thing. Really go in for now the suggestions of generalization, that the conflict is over. Now they can achieve that positive intention, a new, positive, exciting way. They can begin to look forward to making all these changes as their health begins to improve, and blah, 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 blah. This is really, really powerful stuff. It's one of the most powerful techniques that I use when I work with people with addictions, because so often it's the conflict that's the problem. Certainly deal with the trauma by all means if you're working with addictions. But when you actually get to the parts work, this is the way of doing it. And it's a really useful part. It's so much better than other parts works where they call out the part, give it a name, find out its intention, and then have it generate a couple of different ways of doing it, and then promise to keep to that new way. Because in that situation, you've still got the part there. It's still incongruent. You've got a part. You've now collapsed the conflict, brought this new super part in, that has now been absorbed in the body, and it's now part of the nervous system, is formed into the nervous system. The conflict is gone. So this is so much better than the old method of parts therapy, where you're just hypnotizing, calling out a part, giving it a name and doing that. In my opinion, that's a really bad idea, because you still got the incongruent part there. This, you are integrating the part. Or you integrate the conflict and the part itself. So it's a very, very powerful technique. I use this all the time with addictions. I use it often with smokers as well. It's a great convincer as well. If you're doing this up front before you're doing your hypnosis work, it's a really great convincer, because the client suddenly has their hands coming towards them like this. This builds belief and expectancy so much better than normal suggestibility tests and things like that. So it's a really powerful technique that can create long-term change. So the key is using the language to chunk up from the behavior to the positive intention. There is always a positive intention if you use what's important about that. What will that do for you? Keep going up in logical levels. Really useful, powerful technique. So I hope you have some fun with it. It really is a technique that you can use with all sorts of clients, but particularly clients who are incongruent, and particularly those ones who are addicted to certain substances. So have some fun with it. It's really powerful. You can use it one-on-one. You can use it over Zoom. It's such a powerful, powerful technique. So have some fun with it. If you like the video, please like and subscribe, because I'm always putting more videos on, and I shall see you in one of the next videos. So I hope to see you soon. Till then, bye now.